afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. So today I'm going to cover over the basics of SEO. Some of you may know some of the things I'm talking about today, but hopefully I can give you some more direction and guidance on where to start. Now, SEO is really vast and complex, so I felt that this was the best place to start for those who feel like you are more of a beginner, or maybe you just want to kind of have a bit of top up or refresh potentially. If you do have complex questions or queries, please ask them in the Q&A box, or if you have very basic ones, please ask them away. We will go through questions at the end. Alternatively, if you didn't want to ask any questions today, you feel a bit nervous, that's fine. We'll have contact details. We'll be following up with an email afterwards, so you can ask me questions on a more one-to-one basis if you like. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well if you want to find me there. So let's introduce myself. I'm Virginia. Hi guys. So I'm the head of digital marketing here at the Pill Agency. Now I've been working in the field of SEO for over 10 years. I actually started my career in SEO working for a SaaS company initially. And I also just want to really quickly introduce who Pill are, as some of you may not have heard of us before. To do this, I'm going to play a quick video because that's way more interesting to watch than like hearing me talk about it on some boring slides, which doesn't go well for the rest of the webinar. So yeah, please sit back and relax. The music might be a little bit loud. Let me know if there's any problems with the sound in the chat at all, but hopefully everything will run smoothly. So here is Pill. All right, well, hopefully you got from that who we are, but in case you didn't, we are a health and beauty specialist agency. We service clients across brand, creative, digital marketing, and technology. So that's just a quick overview about who we are. Okay, so let's then crack on. Enough about us, enough about me. What you're here today is to learn SEO. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today for the next kind of 45 minutes or so. We're first going to go through some quick facts and figures, get you some nice juicy stats. Everyone loves a stat. I'm then going to teach you a bit about the SEO jargon and things that you might have heard or things you might want to use to make yourself sound super smart. There's 3 areas of SEO, which I put into this cute little hats metaphor. So I'll talk you through that very shortly. We're then going to look about how reviews actually impact SEO and what you might want to do about that for your own brand. And then just where do you start after everything I'm going to talk you through today? So the first thing to say is SEO is like a game of chess. The rules are always the same. Once you've learned the principles of how to play, it's then about perfecting all the different tactics you can deploy to manipulate the grandmaster, which is Google. I've run masterclasses on SEO for like 4 years now, and the material literally never changes. And that's because SEO doesn't really change. There are new algorithms that are released to stop people from implementing bad SEO, but these algorithms don't change the core principles of SEO at all. So what is SEO? Well, first of all, SEO stands for search engine optimization. I'm sure everyone here knew that, but in case you didn't, now you do. Which when I tell my friends and family, they still look at me like, what? So in case any of you are thinking the same thing, let me explain a bit more detail. Essentially, SEO is a complete pain in the ass. It's really long-winded, it's like very strategic, very long-term. However, it's arguably the most valuable marketing channel there is. No matter what size or industry your company is, wherever a customer or a consumer enters a query that's relevant to your website or search engine, you want to be there. You want to be the result that they click on. If SEO is implemented correctly, it can be really, really rewarding, as it's effectively the process of getting free organic traffic from search engines to your website. But I do have to stress, there is no quick way of ranking your website on search engines. It is a long-term strategy that should be supported by other marketing efforts, such as PPC, email, and social. Now, I've got some fast facts for you here. So 93% of all online experiences begin with a search engine. If you think about your own kind of behaviors, I'm sure most of you kind of whack into Google first to find the answer to whatever it is you're looking for. So obviously it's a very, very important channel to make sure you're here and present. 43% of all clicks come from the first position on Google. So that's why it's always so important, why I get so many people saying to me, we need to be in position number 1, which obviously, yes, I'm going to get you there, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And finally, 75% of people never scroll past the first page of search engines. There's a joke here that I've told so many times. I'm going to tell to you guys who may not have heard it. If you want to bury the body that you've just, murdered, hide it on the second page of Google. No one goes there. There you go. That's my SEO joke out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through some SEO language. Now, some of you may have heard some of this before, some of you may not have. The purpose of this part of the webinar is to get you familiar with some of the key terms so you can have more productive meetings with your team or your web developers, or just sound super smart. Firstly, there are 2 types of SEO. There's black hat and white hat. Now, these are quite archaic terms, but they're still applicable nonetheless. Like I said, the principles of SEO don't actually change. So black hat SEO is the bad SEO. It's the SEO you don't want to do. It's the SEO you don't want to hire people to do. You don't want contractors doing it. No. Now, what black hat SEO is basically finding the loopholes with search engines like Google and trying to rank anyway. So some of the older things you used to be able to do, but you can't really do anymore, is things like keyword stuffing. So if you wanted to rank for a particular keyword, back in the olden days, like what, 2010 or something, or earlier than that, you just like literally put that word in multiple times throughout the page and you would rank for it, because like Google would go, oh, this must be really popular, we'll definitely rank you for this. That obviously doesn't read very well to a human. So they've obviously Google put things in place to stop that happening, but that's just a type of black hat SEO. Some other things are things like cloaking. Again, this is archaic stuff, but if you were to have a white background on your website, for example, and then you keyword stuff in white writing around it so that a robot can read it, but a human can't, that used to be able to get you to rank. Again, there are algorithms in place to stop this. To be honest, the most kind of black hat SEO now really comes from like link building tactics. There are lots and lots of things in place to stop people doing this, but there are lots of very clever people that can still find the loopholes. But I will warn you, if you do this and you get caught, your site then gets penalized and removed from Google, which you don't want to happen. You then got white hat SEO. This is the good SEO. This is the SEO that I do. This is what I'm going to teach you to do. This is all focusing on relevancy, the right keywords, doing good backlinking, creating unique content, building a well-structured site, all the good stuff. This is what people should be doing. This is what the majority of people do in the SEO world. I would be very cautious of hiring any contractors, freelancers, agencies that promise they can, I don't know, buy so many links or they can write so much content at a certain time. That to me would be a red flag. So just kind of be wary of those types of tactics. That's likely going to be down the black hat route, which you don't want to do. So I'm going to just show you some key phrases that you may have heard before. If you haven't, I'm just going to teach you some now. Here are some of the ones that are the most popular and the ones that are kind of more used around kind of the business. So my personal favorite on here is link juice because it's hilarious. It's a real term, by the way. This is not a term I've just made up for this purpose. It is a term for the SEO world. What it means is passing authority from one page to another. So every page has like an authority to it, usually marked out of 100. And if you create another page off the back of it and it links to it, what you're doing is you're passing link juice to that page that's linked to that like more authoritative page. Typically your home page will have the most link juice because it's the most authoritative page on your site, which is why when you create new pages, you might want to link them from your homepage, because your homepage will pass on a certain amount of link juice to a brand new page, which gives it a little bit of a boost. Some other things you might have heard of, things like on-site SEO, that's basically SEO on your site. Things like meta tags, these are your page titles and your little kind of summarized descriptions of the page. So when you go onto Google and you type in a search term, your results come up. The meta title is the title, literally the blue link that you click, and the meta description is the summary underneath. All this needs to be manually written, so it's all optimized for search. You might have heard things like SERPs, which means search engine results page. So yeah, there's quite a few little things on here. So these are commonly the most used phrases, particularly when you're dealing with like SEO audits or health checks. So there you go, a little quick glossary for you. So like I said earlier, SEO wears 3 hats. There are 3 core elements to SEO, and unfortunately you have to be doing all 3 of them. You can't just do one and forget the others. You do have to do all 3. And this is why SEO is such a massive area. This is why you hire SEO specialists, because you can't just have people dabbling. You do need someone that's specialized in it. However, saying that though, SEO covers such a broad spectrum that in a way, everybody who works in the marketing world or development world really needs to know a little bit about SEO, because everyone plays a role somehow. So we have our first hat, my little cute chihuahua here. This is our technical hat. So this refers to all SEO elements that Google, other search engines read to make sure that your website is functioning. These are things like speed, structure, and security. You've then got your cute little content hat. So again, everything to do with copy on your website. And we have our social hat. So what you talk about on social should reflect what you talk about on your website and what your brand is about, what your services are about, everything. So I'm going to go and talk about these in a bit more detail for you. So starting with technical. So first off, you have your on-site and off-site SEO. Now what this means is literally on-site is everything you do on your website. Off-site SEO is everything you do off your website. So that would be things like link building or writing content on third-party sites or something like that. That's all your off-site SEO, all important, but it's not physically on your site. On-site SEO, everything that you do on your website. So that's things like writing your meta tags, so your descriptions, your page titles, writing content, removing any duplicates, either in content or meta tags, checking your robots.txt file, searching for any issues that might be blocking your site from being found. That's what on-site SEO really refers to. We then got page architecture. So these are things, this is basically how your page is structured. So think of it like a building. That's basically what page architecture is all about. It's things like looking at your H1s, your H2s, your H3s. These H1s, H2s, H3s are basically titles on your page. So you've got the big title up here, then you've got a second one here, then a third one here. They should be wrapped in either an H1 or an H2 or an H3. The reason you do that is because a robot, again, reads like they're not human. They don't understand, text and things. So they read kind of top to bottom. So they're kind of looking for those titles to kind of break up the text so you understand it in a bit more detail. You're also looking at things like internal linking. So how many internal links do you have on the page? Where do they go to? How does it map what your page is about? How does it link? Basically, like the whole point of page architecture is to benefit a robot because they are not a human. They don't understand like layouts and context and things like that. So they rely on how it's kind of structured. And that's essentially what page architecture is about. You've then got schema markup. This is one of the most powerful, but probably least utilized form of SEO available today. It's extra code that you put on your website to help the search engines return more informative results for the user. So let me show you an example of what I mean. So if you were to search for a lemon meringue pie, these are the results that you can see. These might change. I had this screenshot a while ago, but this is what you'll essentially see. Now, what schema markup is, are these little bits here. So you've got these little kind of grayed out areas, which what this website has done is it's told Google, right, pull out this information from my page because I know that my users find this more useful and that's how they help make a decision. So you can see things here like this particular one has got the star ratings pulled out. It's got how many people have voted for that particular recipe, how long it takes to cook, and how many calories it's got. And if you look at that in comparison to the other results here on the screen, you can see the other ones don't necessarily contain calorie information, or they have lower star ratings, or they take either longer or shorter amount of time to bake. So this just helps me as a user figure out which one I want to choose out of them. Because I mean, a lemon meringue pie, it's like the same bloody thing, right? How do I know which one's the best one to do? Well, I can quickly look by looking at these schema snippets. So this is really, really helpful for people, and actually they really help generate a higher click-through rate as well. Just to show you another example from like a beauty brand point of view. This is an example from Estee Lauder. So again, you can see here they've pulled out review ratings in their schema markup. They've also put in things like how much it costs, so depending on obviously what size bottle you were to buy. And they're showing their availability if it's in stock or out of stock. Again, really useful information from a user point of view. I don't want to be wasting my time clicking on sites if it's out of stock. That's incredibly frustrating. And also, to be honest, if you don't pull this through and you're out of stock, all you're doing is generating a high bounce rate, which actually damages your rankings in the long term. And then actually you start to de-rank because you're sending people to the site and you're not giving them what they want. So by having things like schema markup on the site, it just helps encourage people to take that purchase and shows like higher intent. They can be tricky to implement. This is where I would say work with a developer or an SEO specialist to do this. But it's something definitely worth doing for your website if you can. And again, feel free to have a chat with me afterwards to figure out, what markup you could do. It's a little bit complicated. Okay, so next we have then algorithms. So does the website comply with the latest algorithms? Google roll out several core updates throughout the year. In fact, they've just done literally a core rollout about 2 months ago now. They never tell you. They never tell you what the algorithm update is. It's incredibly frustrating. So they announce that an update is coming, but they don't tell you what it's going to do. It's all a bit of a guessing game. It's like, oh, fun. So this latest one was basically one that looked at like things like content, links, the usual kind of stuff. I'm actually going to do a little bit a piece on this a little bit later, just about some of the core algorithms to be aware of. They've got fancy, funny names. They're all to do with animals mainly. So I will talk about it later on. But essentially, if you follow best practice, white hat SEO, algorithms shouldn't really ever bother you. It's only if you're doing a little bit dodgy stuff that you might find that your site suddenly gets impacted. There have been updates in the past where even if you're doing a great job, Google have changed something and it does impact you temporarily, but it will then kind of revert and you will go back to normal while things kind of kind of settle down a bit. The last one here is then usability. So essentially, does your website load? Is it user-friendly? Is it built using the most up-to-date code? Does your website load for all browser types? Is it mobile friendly? All these kind of things. Again, usability really impacts your technical SEO. Okay, so moving on then to content. So everyone will have heard this. Content is king. This has been a phrase going around since I started my SEO career back in 2010. So it hasn't changed. So getting your content right is really important. Once you've created a solid foundation to support all of your other SEO efforts, like content is super easy to do. I mean, like anyone can write content. Make it interesting, obviously. If it's going to be like a load of rubbish and no one's going to care. But as long as you're doing a keyword research and you can create some good content off the back of it, this is kind of a big area for SEO. So keywords, like I just mentioned, are actually really important. But one thing you could do is have a look at your content pages and identify if there was a keyword focus for that landing page or not. Could you summarize what that landing page is talking about in a couple of words? One word, maybe a little bit of phrase. Doing keyword research before creating any new content is really important to success. Creating content just because you think that's what people are searching for is a recipe for disaster. Use what you think is right to do some actual research. If you think this is how people are searching, you think this is what keywords they would use, great, use that, but then build upon that with your keyword research and have a look a bit further out. What other keyword phrases are people using, and then build content around all of that. Freshness. So search engines love fresh, regular content. This is why we suggest things like weekly blogs or news articles or events. There's something called Query Deserves Freshness, it's QDF, What that basically means is if I'm searching something that's in the news, like COVID, or trending or becoming popular, I want to see the most up-to-date news on it. So therefore, any articles or posts that I publish around that piece of content will automatically receive some boosts, some ranking boosts, because I'm talking about it, it's hot information, it's got a high volume of search right here, right now. So I automatically kind of shoot up the rankings just for being kind of on the trend. It's kind of similar to social media in a way, just piggyback of what's popular and that'll give you a bit of a boost. And that can be useful to obviously rank quickly. Local search. So if your content is localized, then it'll be pushed to the top of a search, of a user's search result. So for example, if you were a florist and you've got like the likes of like Interflora, I don't know if they have actual stores, but anyway, let's say Interflora have a store for now. If you were a florist in the local area and you got the big one kind of around the corner, you will actually rank better than they will, because Google favors local businesses. They're trying to give them a bit of a boost. They know that your budgets aren't the same. They know your resource won't be the same. So this is actually really beneficial for local businesses. Now, the only way that you are going to be able to piggyback off of kind of Google giving you a jump off here is if you've registered your business with My Google Business. So if you haven't done that, you need to do that, because then you'll benefit automatically off local search. So with My Google Business account, it's really easy to like literally Google it and follow the instructions. They'll end up sending you some sort of postcard thing. You have to type it in. It's really easy. Bit faffy, but it's really easy. So if you haven't done that, that's something to do if you are a local business or you have multiple shops, stores, whatever, in certain areas. The last one is then featured snippets. These are really difficult to get. They're referred to as position 0 because they only came out like in the last few years. This is what they look like. I'm going to show you. So I've done a search tool here, which is how do I get a feature snippet? So feel free to do this for more information. But this is what a feature snippet is. It's this big chunk of text that sits at the very, very top of your search results. Google are actually rolling out showing 2 of these for certain queries if they're very, very popular. I haven't seen many of them. I've only ever seen 1 shown, but I've seen a couple of examples where 2 are shown. Essentially, to get these, there is no recipe, unfortunately, like a lemon meringue pie. All you can do for this is make sure you've got really good content, make sure you're doing your keyword research and that's something people are searching for. Write your content around that, structure your page so it answers questions kind of at the top of your page and then kind of goes into additional information below. Make sure you've got like pages linking to it and you're linking off from it as well. Like just following best practice kind of SEO is the only way you're going to really get into this. Another way might be if you notice there's not very much competition, but there's quite a high volume of search. That's another kind of quicker way to do it, but it's kind of unlikely there'll be many feature snippet opportunities if it's a low volume of search. These only appear when there's kind of a lot of traffic and people want answers right away. These typically appear for questions. So do some research, have a look at what questions people are typing around your brand, and then see if you can create content off the back of it, and then just watch the rankings and see if you get into the spot. It can be quite fun, but it can also be a little bit of a long-term strategy as well, but it's something worth bearing in mind. The last area of kind of the SEO pillars are social. So social signals and engagement, they're emerging as ranking factors for search engines, and they determine how to leverage kind of social interaction and behaviors. So what you're putting out there on social should be relevant to your brand. So what you're effectively doing is creating a host of content and earning backlinks from people who share your content. So obviously having a social strategy, having a consistent social strategy will actually impact and benefit your SEO. So do you remember at the beginning of this, I said SEO touched on lots of people's kind of jobs. This is one, like you will probably have a social media manager, or you'll be responsible for looking after your social. Social has an element of SEO to it. So this is just kind of shows you just how enormous SEO is. Building up a network. So connecting with other accounts, communities and individuals, ideally obviously ones with good reputation. But participating on relevant social platforms widens your reach and exposes your brand to more audiences who may then talk about your brand in a different way, which then gives you more insight into what content engages well, gives you more keyword depth, more keyword rich content, just another great way to kind of expand your content and to kind of be out there a bit further, kind of organically. The last one, this is important, The channels that actually show in search engines are Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest. Unfortunately, Facebook and Instagram do not. But these channels here, they show up in a Google search result. So make sure the content that you're posting to them is relevant to your brand. Again, it just expands your keyword depth and expands people engaging and talking about your brand in maybe different ways. So after all that, this is the question you're probably all thinking is, how exactly do I get to page 1 of Google? Well, it's not as easy as asking that question, because the answer, unfortunately, is a whole bunch of stuff. There's not one thing that you can do. There's not one thing I can't just say to you, do you know what? Write really good content and that'll work. Unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, there are 3 core elements of SEO. You get your technical, your content, your social. You need to be doing all of that stuff to make sure that you rank. If you're not writing good content, if your site takes forever to load, either on desktop or mobile, if it's not built with the right code, all these things can impact your ranking possibilities. SEO is a long-term strategy with a multitude of different tasks, but it's really worth it in the end, until obviously a new algorithm gets released and completely screws up all the work you've done. But until that point, it's really worth it. I mean, like I said, SEO is tricky, it's long-term, it's not for the people that are impatient, which actually is my personality. I'm quite impatient as a person, but freakishly, I like to do SEO. I really enjoy it because you can see your results and it's nice to see your organic kind of traffic going up and up and up, but you do have to be doing a mix of everything. And even if you're not the expert, that's fine. You just need to make sure you've got the people in place that can build the website, that can write the content, that can run your social media. Kind of putting all those pieces together, like a chess game, will all end up working together and you should end up ranking well and doing well organically. So sorry, there's no quick answer. I used to have this red button on my desk. So when people came up to me and said, we need to rank for number 1 for this, I would hit the button as a sarcastic and passive aggressive way. But essentially though, it is long-term, there's lots to do, but it will happen, it will work. So don't be demoralized by it, it will happen. Now I want to talk to you about reviews and SEO. Now I have a whole other webinar dedicated about this, which we did with Trustpilot. So what I'll do is I'll give you a very short overview on this, but I would suggest you do watch it if you want to see the whole thing. It's about 30 minutes long, but I'm going to give you the highlights now because reviews are quite important for SEO. So last year, as part of our event series called The Future of Beauty, we conducted our own market research to find out how different generations discover brands, learn about them, and ultimately how they shop for them. We surveyed 1,200 people across the UK, and this is what we found. We asked if reviews impact the decision making or not. We found that 74% of all participants said that they are influenced by reviews. We then broke this data down to see what the split was across the different generations. You can see here that 83% of Gen Z said the reviews influenced their purchase decision. Now, looking at our data, you can see that Gen Z and millennials are more affected by reviews than the older generations. In fact, it appears the older you get, the less bothered you are about reviews, or maybe you become more cynical about reviews. But either way, the older you are, the less they impact you. So knowing that people do care about reviews, especially at a younger age, is really important for your brand's SEO because it's another great way to boost your rankings. On that, I found this helpful chart from Moz, which if you haven't heard of Moz, they're a massive SEO consultancy based in America. And they broke down for us like what are the most important ranking factors. You can see here that reviews are worth 10% towards your ranking power. Now that's pretty big. If you think about that, it's because you're generating real unbiased content from consumers who buy or use your products and services. And that gives you a bunch more content and keywords you may not have thought of or realized how consumers think, which then you can use to your advantage and create copy from. When it comes to reviews, what you as a brand probably really care about are those gold stars. So how do you get into appear in search? Again, it's not that easy. I feel like I've a broken record. What you need to do is you need to be using a Google trusted third-party supplier, someone like Trustpilot, for example. If you Google for Google seller ratings, you'll find a page on Google that lists all the suppliers that they accept. To get organic stars is a little bit tricky, but you can do it if you've got products. You would need to implement review schema like I showed you earlier. Onto your product pages, and that pulls through reviews and stars, and that will then start to show up in organic rankings as well. To get the stars on your paid ads, you have to meet specific criteria. This criteria is you must have 100 new reviews in a 12-month period. So that means as soon as you get to 100, you don't just stop. You have to continuously have 100 new reviews in 12 months. So you have to keep working at generating and getting those reviews. And your star rating must be 3.5 or higher. If you slip on any one of those two criteria, you will start, your reviews won't show up in ads anymore. One of the things that I hear a lot is, people don't want to do reviews because they're afraid of the bad reviews. Now, look, come on, negative reviews are the most sought out and read. These are the ones that people are most engaged with. They want to know what could go wrong and what did the company do about it. I always look for negative reviews. If I go and buy something brand new that I've never heard of before and it's got 0 negative reviews, I'm like, mate, they are so bought. Like, that's not true. That's just not true. And I wouldn't trust the brand because they didn't have any negative reviews. What I care about, and what users care about, is just, what did they do about it? Did they answer it properly? Did they refund? Did they get changed delivery? Like, what did they do? The other thing as well is online reputation management really shows people that you care by responding to those negative reviews, and obviously occasionally the good ones as well. So this is a really big deal, and I don't think you should be put off a review strategy. I mean, lots of the brands we speak to now do have some form of review strategy in place. But if you didn't, this is a really good reason as to why you should. And again, like I said, it's 10% of your overall ranking factor. So it's definitely worth it, even just for that one bit of information. So here we go then. So I've taught you all this stuff, you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. Where do I start? Well, what I'm going to do is quickly talk you through some common algorithms that you should know about first. Like, these are quite important, quite a big deal. So the first one is Penguin. So this is a search filter designed to better catch sites deemed to be spamming its search results. In particular, those that are buying links or obtaining them through link networks designed primarily to boost Google rankings. So kind of, if you're doing the bad link building, essentially, the Penguin algorithm is going to get you. When a new Penguin update is released, sites that have taken action to remove bad links, sites that have taken action to remove bad links may regain rankings again. So if you have been buying dodgy links and then the Penguin algorithm updates and then you're like, oh my God, my site's gone off the grid, that's fine. You can remove links through the search console. You just have to kind of go through it. It's a bit of a long, tedious task, but worth it if obviously you want to be ranking again. You then got the Panda algorithm. This is a search filter meant to stop sites with poor quality content from working their way into Google's top results. Poor quality content is mainly done, again, to kind of get people who are searching particular things and you're spamming it throughout your site. And again, like, the Panda algorithm is aimed to stop that, and it's unlikely you'll be able to be successful by doing that. So things like keyword stuffing, the things I said earlier, that's really what it's looking for. So Panda's to do with content, Penguins to do with links. You then got your Pigeon algorithm. This was a major local search algorithm launched back in 2014 to provide more useful, relevant, and accurate local search results that are tied more closely to traditional web search ranking signals. You then have Mobilegeddon. I remember this one very well. I remember panicking about this one. This was back in 2015. It's an algorithm launched to promote sites that are mobile friendly. So this one only impacts smartphones. It's all about that mobile first tech build. It's an algorithm that looks at page load time on a mobile device to decide whether or not to push your site above someone else's. Other factors such as user journeys on a mobile and whether or not it's responsive on a mobile are also considered as part of the ranking result. And the last is RankBrain. This is an algorithm that uses machine learning to help Google understand the meaning behind queries and serve best matching results. Basically, Google goes beyond the person's search query and takes into account the larger context, like synonyms, implied words, and personal search history. So it will literally try to understand who you are as a person to figure out exactly what it is you're looking for, as opposed to being super literal. This is something that Google have been working on a lot for the last few years. Like, this is all AI related technology, essentially. And this is where search is getting better and better every day. So there are some key areas of SEO to be aware of. The first is snippets. So snippets dominate more search results. Now, do you remember that feature snippet I showed you earlier, that big chunk of text? That's what you want to be going after on search. People are inherently lazy. They want quick answers and they'll go with you if you provide them the answer they're looking for. In fact, 54% of clicks from Google originate from feature snippets. Voice search. So 72% of people who own voice-activated speakers say that their devices are used as part of their daily routine. So knowing how to optimize your website for voice search can help you generate more organic traffic if you understand and implement conversational searches into your SEO strategy. At the end of 2019, Google released the BERT algorithm, which stands for Bidirectional Encoder Representations from Transformers, which uses natural language processing technology to better understand search queries and interpret text. It's similar to that rank brain algorithm I just showed you, but basically more clever. HTTPS. So having an HTTPS site has been a ranking signal since 2014, but Google have been on a mission to push it still. And there are still sites that I see today that don't have HTTPS in their URL, which is mental. Basically, if you don't have it, actually, I've got a stat here, 40% of people don't have it. So if you don't, browsers like Chrome actually flag it now, saying, oh, unsecured site, do you want to continue? And people who aren't in like the marketing world or understand websites will go, oh, and they'll just close down your website. So you need to have it, one, just for people that don't understand, but two, if you don't have it, you won't rank because Google's not going to promote your site over a more secure site. So again, this is something you just need to speak to your web developers about and get onto your website. When you get it, make sure you use a 301 redirect to send your non-HTTPS site to your HTTPS site, okay? 301 redirect, use those words. The next one is then favoring mobile. A website that is not optimized for mobile just won't rank. However, just having a mobile-friendly website is not enough. The UX of your mobile site needs to be easy to read, grab people's attention, and then have the ability to answer the questions or at least keep them entertained. More people today are searching from their smartphones than a computer, so it's important to have a mobile version of your site to reach the most amount of people interested in your product or service. Similarly, not just from an SEO point of view, if you're running any sort of paid campaigns through paid search or paid social, people will be clicking on that from a mobile device. About 90% of people will be clicking from a mobile phone. So again, if you don't have a mobile friendly site, it's going to impact your paid campaigns as well. And that's no fun. So then how do you measure success on Google? There are lots of different ways you can do it. These are some of the ones that I use. I use Moz more than anything, but there are other SEO tools like Majestic SEO, SEMrush, Screaming Frog's another good one to do a crawl of the site. Again, these are all quite technical tools, so give it a go if you're not an SEO person. Probably the most user-friendly one here is Moz. But yeah, this is where you'll be using your SEO experts, either agencies, freelancers, or a specialist in-house. They'll have access to these types of tools. They can teach you, I'm sure. But if you did want to give it a go yourself, I would recommend Moz. They are all paid for tools, of course. I don't know the cost of all of them, but I do know that Moz is $99 a month. I think that's probably the most reasonable one out there. But like I said, I don't know all the price structures, unfortunately. Again, you can also measure your organic success through Google Analytics, which is free. You can have a look at your organic traffic and just have a look to see if traffic has increased over a certain time. You can filter that down by pages that you've created to see if that particular page has increased organic traffic, sorry. You can see a little bit of organic keyword search. I mean, Google stopped showing keyword searches back in what, 2015, 2014, somewhere around then. Was it earlier than that? No, around then. So you can't really see exact keywords people have typed in to then find your website, unfortunately. But you can see an element of it if you have a Google Search Console, which is then linked to your Google Analytics. Again, there's so much I could talk about SEO, but this is like a beginner's class. I can only I'm limiting it. Otherwise, I'm going to give so much information to you today. You're not going to know where to go. Just come speak to me. I'll help you. So how to get started? I'm going to give you 5 areas, 5 things that you can go away and do today to get started on improving your SEO. Because again, I've told you lots of stuff today. I'll give you lots of things to look at and consider, but let's just funnel it and let's give you actually 5 tasks. So the first one is URL structure. So basically Google has OCD. It likes to see that your web pages are all sitting within an organized and user-friendly hierarchy. Ideally, you don't want to go more than 3 folders deep within the URL structure. When developing your site, really consider the structure of where all your content sits. And for the love of God, try not to duplicate content on different URLs. I have seen this happen. This happens a lot with resource pages. People go, oh, I really want this page to sit here under this navigation, but also want this to sit here and then they create 2 different URLs with the same content. Mate, that's not, you can't do that. that's duplicate content is what that is, and that's no good. So be careful about things like that. You do have to differ the content or just use the same URL. But anyway, that starts to get a bit complicated. Just avoid duplicate content. Next one is cut the low quality traffic pages. So you might spend years creating content. Like you've been on that site, you've been creating content for like 5+ years now. You're really proud of it. That's great. That is great. But those pages that you created like 5, 4, 3 years ago, do they get any traffic anymore, or are they just sat there getting like 5 page views a year? Like, have a look at this. This is where you can use Google Analytics to check out which pages no longer get traffic. This is something you should probably do annually. Again, if you have an SEO specialist working for you, this is something they should do annually. Do a look at the site for the last kind of 6 months, 12 months. What content on your site has less than like, I don't know, 50 page views or whatever's, you know, low for your site, and get rid of them. You don't need them anymore. They're not doing anything to your site. They're literally giving you no value whatsoever. It just makes it harder to manage. If you do get rid of a page that no longer needs to be around anymore because it's giving you no benefit, you must make sure you put a redirect in place. You need to use a 301 redirect, which is a permanent redirect. You then need to tell, I mean, again, your web developers will likely do this for you, but if you're going to cut a page, you need to make sure you tell Google where that page is now redirecting to. So like when you move house, you know, you don't just move house and tell no one, you tell the post office, so you've moved over here. It's the same deal. So you need to tell Google, okay, this page no longer is here anymore. So now redirect any traffic that finds it to like your home page or an equivalent other page. Improving page speed. So do you know how fast your website is overall? And what about your top landing pages or by device type? If you don't know any information, go on to Google and you can find it. You can have a look as well. Actually, if you do page speed test, you can just type into Google like page speed test or website speed test, drop in your URLs. It will feed back like how quickly your site loads or not. Essentially, you want your site to load in like 2 seconds. There's lots of websites I've seen when you do it from a mobile device, it loads in like 10 seconds. That is really slow. You as a user, can you imagine yourself sitting there waiting 10 seconds for a site to load? No, it's over. It's over. I want to find something else. I'm impatient, so I'm not going to wait 10 seconds. So there are things you can do. Again, you probably wouldn't do them yourself. This is where you'd work with a web developer. But it's things like caching is usually an issue. Limiting how much script and things loads on the site, so using other sources to load kind of scripts and technical things like that. You might be using a particular type of inline styling. So this is all very technical, so I'm not going to kind of overboard you with this information, but you'll produce a report like from doing this on a simple Google search. You can give that to your developers, they'll understand it, they can fix it. So this is something worth checking. Make sure your site loads under 2 seconds. If it's loading more than that, there's a problem. You want to also build and kill internal links. So moving traffic around your site through internal linking is really important and also encourages higher time on site, higher dwell time. This all looks good to Google. Also great for link juice as well, passing that link juice to other pages. However, having too many internal links on one page is actually also harmful. The maximum amount of internal links you want on one page is around 100. Any more than this and you're diluting your authority a lot. So authority is marked out of 100. So if you have 101, you like just do the maths. I can't do the maths quick enough, but it's obviously less than 1% for each page. And you want to be aiming for like, I don't know, 5 to 10%. I mean, that's quite high, but just make sure you kind of bear that in mind. Also, when you think about internal linkings, it's not just the links in your content. It's like your footer, your headers, any other places that you might be clicking from. So again, there are lots of links on the page. So just bear that in mind when you're kind of mentally working out how many links you have. So yeah, try to have no more than 100. The last one is link building, essentially. Link building is a really, really hard job. I actually don't do it myself personally. It's a very, very manual and labor intensive job. It's something that I outsource to real specialists. It's a kind of form of PR, to be honest with you. What link building really is you're getting third-party websites linking to your site. I'm sure a bunch of you had emails before saying, oh, we'd love to link to your site, and you probably ignore them. It's a really hard job, and it's quite tough as well. And like, if you're a proper specialist, like getting just 5 links in 1 month is very, very good. Like getting 1 a month is probably like the average. So what you could do to kind of avoid that kind of pain and laborious job is actually tip up existing relationships. Like, do you have any suppliers that you could link to your site? Do you have any clients that can link to your site? Do you have any like third-party retailers that might link to your site? Have a think about like all your relationships with that to do with your business, and ask them if they'll link to your website from their website. And that gives you a bit of a boost as well. So this is good. The reason why you do it is because you're showing Google that your website is trustworthy enough that someone else is willing to link to it, to send people, their own people, to it. So it's a good thing to do. It's just a bit difficult, and I would always go down this route first, and then look to maybe get a better link building strategy in place with a proper specialist that can do it for you. But do bear in mind, it's very, very laborious, and it will take a long time. You're not going to get 50 links in like 3 months. That's just unachievable. And that, everyone, is everything I'm going to teach you today. So that really was a beginner's class. Hopefully I've given you some information. Hopefully I made it interesting enough. Like, SEO can be quite a difficult topic to talk about in an entertaining way, so I've tried to make it as fun as possible. I will leave it over to you guys now. If you have any questions you want to ask me, this is your chance now, so please do pop them in the Q&A box if you have anything. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to kind of think of some questions. Like, literally ask anything you like, either basic, experience, whatever you fancy. Now is your chance. Just while you're having to think about what you want to ask, we do have another event next week. It's our paid search event. This was going to be a live event as well with me. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we are unable to make it a live event now. However, lucky for you, I'm going to pre-record it, and we will send out the link to that. So if you haven't signed up for this yet, and you want to know a bit more about paid search and how to get started and how to do it, sign up today. We'll send an email link around after this. And like I said, we'll send you a recording of it, and then you can watch it in any time you fancy. Right, I'm going to have a quick look now at any questions that have come in. So one here, you mentioned Google a lot, but does all of this apply to other search engines like Bing, blah, blah, blah? My customers are quite old. We tend to use this. Yeah, yes, okay. A lot of this, I've been using Google a lot. Everything that I'm saying applies to other search engines as well. I just use Google because like 90% of the world uses Google. Actually, that's not actually true. I think it's like 65% of people in America use Google, and about 80% of people in the UK use Google. So Google is like the strongest of all search engines. But yeah, everything I've said today applies across all search engines. So that, yeah, it's the same principles. SEO is the same anywhere. Hi, what would you suggest for schema markup for a software company? Oh, that's a tricky one. Reviews, I would do. Organization, I would do. You could do product as well if you have products at your software company. They're probably the ones I'd recommend first, obviously without knowing what you do. It's hard to recommend, but they're the kind of basic ones I definitely recommend. For SaaS companies, schema markup is definitely more tricky. Like, schema markup is certainly a lot easier if you're B2C. If you're B2B, there are limited options for you, but the ones I just said, they're probably the most favorable for B2B companies. Anything else? I think that is everything. Okay, there are all the questions I have right now. If anyone else has any other questions that you want to ask, we will send you out an email shortly with the recording for this. And again, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, my name is Virginia Girtz. Feel free to message me directly. And that's it. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you found it useful and interesting and entertaining. And yeah, hopefully see you at the paid search one. If not, see you some other time. Thanks everyone. Bye.